KM Frequency here again with another video talking about the most popular phone right now, the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. Google is back at it again with their premium device, and this time they're doing things a little different. This time bringing their own custom chip, the Tensor, and ultimately improving on what Google does best, AI. A quick disclaimer, I'm not going to go through the camera. I feel like the camera's talked about enough, and I'm not the best photographer in the world, so my opinion on it, I believe, wouldn't amount to much anyway. So if you're looking for photography, there are many excellent videos available, going thoroughly in depth with the camera. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the day-to-day features with the phone and some of the things I experienced, whether good or bad. So with that, let's get into it. The design. Google modified the standard smartphone design this time around with the Pixel 6 Pro. Instead of going for frosted glass or polycarbonate body, they went with it all glass, which is just extremely slippery without the case, sometimes causing you to struggle keeping it in your hands. I also found it slips off surfaces by itself sometimes, which also gave me a scare once. Slapping a case on this phone would quickly fix those problems, unless you like rocking your phone naked. Google went with a 6.7-inch curved display, which can get on some people's nerves considering the size. Large phones have been the trend for a while, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. The alternative though is the smaller Pixel 6, sporting a 6.3-inch display, which isn't much smaller, but the option is available if you're looking for one. That one also doesn't have a curved display like its bigger twin, which may be preferable to some people. The curved display on the Pixel 6 Pro is beautiful when looking at it, but the functionality can sometimes be irritating with those curved displays because of accidental touches. I found myself sometimes touching the edge of the screen, but not often. I can see how it can be annoying. The curve is helpful when you're using gesture navigation, so it has its uses too. The phone's back now sports a camera bar instead of the usual array of cameras we see on smartphones nowadays, which is refreshing to see. It even balances itself so the phone itself doesn't rock on the table. It's an interesting design choice and one that has grown on me a lot since I've been using this phone. The Pixel Launcher. Compared to my Galaxy S21 Ultra and One UI, I can say that the interface of the Pixel Launcher can be stale and less customizable. Although Google does give you a lot of options, just not as much as other Android manufacturers. The ability to theme your phone and change the colors to your liking give it a more personal feel, and to be honest, I kind of like it. Apps, Google ones specifically, like Messages or the Calendar app, change and match the color scheme you choose. Some people are not a fan of the pastel-like colors, and it's understandable. Some people like the more professional feels of their phone and not have it look like a colorful palette of confetti. In addition to the theming of the device, we have some significant changes to the notification shade, and boy are these changes huge. To preface it, I'm not a really big fan of these changes at all. The buttons just feel compacted. It was much easier when you could have at least 5 or 6 toggles instead of 4. Settings that can be just switched on and off with quick taps have turned into delving into multiple menus and continuous taps and drags. They seem like minor inconveniences, but they end up combining into just general annoyances. I just want to be able to quickly turn something on or off. I think you can hardly find anyone who are comfortable with these changes. With Android 12, it seems like Google's decisions are 1 step forward and 2 steps back, making some strides while losing some customization in the process. They do have some Google-specific changes coming to the at-a-glance widget, which seems kind of nice to put some use to it and not be redundant compared to all the other widgets. The fingerprint sensor. The Fingerprint Reader on the Pixel 6 Pro is suitable for the most part. The only problems I have are its accuracy issues when placing your thumb on it. It uses an optical scanner, so I understand that it may not be as fast as what's available on the Galaxy S21 Ultra, which is an ultrasonic sensor, or even a physical reader, but it ultimately gets the job done. Google came out and explained that delay in unlocking and slow response is for security purposes. That explanation sounds like crap to me. Sounds like an excuse to explain that they included a cheap sensor or something is lacking in the software implementation of it. OnePlus also has an optical sensor attached to my OnePlus 7 Pro, and it works much faster, and I doubt the security is any different. The Pixel 6 Pro also does not have a face unlock. This is very unusual for a device in this price range, especially when every other phone has it. It doesn't matter how secure it is, people just want the choice to have it. The Google Assistant. The Google Assistant features are the most substantial changes, along with creating Google's new Tensor chip and adding it to the Pixel 6. The dictation on this phone is incredible and the fastest I've ever seen. When I was using this phone, I would message family and friends strictly through Google Assistant without ever tapping my screen once. In addition to using the call screening features, reading automated answering machines and picking menu options from the screen are more valuable than you actually think. as well as another helpful feature, being able to snooze or dismiss your clock by just saying stop or snooze. Some of these features have been there already, but some of these welcome additions and quality of life changes are just amazing to use. You can literally browse almost the entirety of the phone without ever lifting a finger. You can really tell that this is where Google really shines. When it comes to developing software and AI, they are really at the top of the market. Compared to Bixby and Siri, the Google Assistant still stands at the top, with the Pixel 6 only widening that gap. I did have some problems with Android Auto and it constantly disconnecting, but I think that might just be my head unit in my car, but I'll look into it some more. I did have some random dialing happening, but the issue seems like it was fixed with one of the latest updates. The battery. In terms of the battery, the Pixel 6 Pro in my experience has been good enough. I wouldn't say the best, but the battery hasn't let me down so far. I can easily get to a second day with some pretty heavy usage. Now, this is just for my experience. It seems like lately the Pixel 6's battery life measurement has been all over the place, varying from person to person. With that being said, I can easily get to about 6 to 7 hours screen on time, which as I said earlier is not the best, but with my usage it gets along just fine without needing to have a charger handy. Mileage may vary. Charging speed on this device is slower than most, even with the claim that it can achieve up to 30 watt charging, which actually turned out to be just 22 watts. 0% to 100% usually takes about 2 hours in my experience, which isn't bad, but other phones charge a lot faster, like the Galaxy S21 Ultra. Google's reasoning for this is because they are trying to protect the battery, and it slows down at 50% to preserve the cells of the battery, which makes sense. The only problem is that they should have mentioned this earlier, and people probably would have been okay with it despite its speed. The only thing they caused is an uproar for simply having mixed messaging. Suffice it to say, the battery on the Pixel 6 is good enough and charging speeds are fine, albeit a bit slow. Call quality. The call quality on the Pixel 6 is as good as it always was with previous Pixel devices. Most people feel like I'm talking right next to them. I have to commend Google for getting the sound quality on phone calls from the Pixel sounding almost perfect. This leads me to the speakers as well. There are 2 bottom firing speakers and 1 front firing speaker. They both work well. They could be balanced better, but they get the job done with listening to music, videos, or using the speaker for voice calls. I would use some voice samples, but they are a tad difficult to hear over the video, so I'll spare you the time and you'll just have to take my word for it. It sounds good. I did run into a few issues with my microphone not working during a phone call. The other person would say they couldn't hear me until I switched to speakerphone, which is kind of weird. I believe it might be a bug, but I hope it gets fixed in a future update. Gaming. I'm not the biggest fan of playing games on my phone, but I do play something for like 5 minutes every now and then. Games run well enough, and sometimes when playing graphic intensive games, the phone can heat up and generally throttle a bit, but only when playing something like Genshin Impact, which isn't all that well optimized for mobile and especially for Android. It's not hot enough to be uncomfortable, but it can be a little annoying. Again though, you never have to worry about the heat for simpler games like Downwell and Miss Pac-Man. Compared to other phones, the Pixel excels at playing and loading games quick and with stable frame rates. I actually felt like the Pixel was playing games better with more consistency than my Galaxy, which is weird considering the Snapdragon is technically the faster processor on paper. It only tells me that Google's new chip is greatly optimized in certain areas, and raw power is no longer telling the whole story when comparing different devices nowadays. In conclusion, the Pixel 6 Pro is a great device and what I believe is the best Android phone you can buy at this very moment. Compared to the competition, you can't really go wrong with it. Any other comparable device will be $300 more for a marginal difference in performance and features to the average consumer. I could easily recommend this phone or its smaller companion, the Pixel 6, over any other Android device at $599 for the Pixel 6 and $899 for the Pixel 6 Pro. With how great the Pixel 6 is this year, I can't wait for what Google will come with for the next Pixel 7 and their next generation texture chip. The only thing I will add is that if you find bugs annoying, Google Pixel devices can have a decent amount of them, but the most irritating ones get ironed out relatively quickly. If you are not a fan of that, I suggest you look elsewhere. Most phones have bugs associated with them, but Pixels can sometimes have a bit more than others do. If you like this video, give it a like, comment, and think about subscribing. I'll see you all in the next video.